I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Seattle, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. We're going to do the stock report a little bit differently. I'm still in my hotel. We just finished UFC Seattle. I'm going to give you my biggest winners and losers, but I can't do the display screen thing like I normally do, so I'm going to just be doing this off the cuff here. And also, I'm going to have a little bit of help on the stock report today. You'll see what I mean a little bit later here. But let's talk about our biggest stock riser on this card. And in this case, the thumbnail does give it away. My biggest stock riser on this card is Gene Silva because he went out there and got a very impressive finish over Melsick, taking him out, really impressive knockout. Even had that moment where looks at the ref's like, no, continue. And he could have hurt Melsick even worse in this fight, and he ends up just doing the nice thing, and that's laying some body shots where, I guess not that nice, but still not hitting him to the head. And I think what it comes down to for me is Gene Silva getting another win at featherweight and a finish as well. He's got 4 knockout wins in 4 UFC fights. That puts up his stock. He was one of the big talking points this week going into this card. Now look, he was a big favorite going into the fight. People are expecting him to win. I get all that. But as I'm going to explain with the rest of this card, there were some weird things that happened on this card that I think prevented me from making someone else the biggest stock riser. So Gene Silva for me, just based off that performance and it being a memorable win for him, his stock goes up. I would like to see him possibly get that ranked opponent next. He's had 4 wins so far in the UFC. Okay, second biggest stock riser. People may disagree with this one, but it's got to be Anthony Hernandez. Now look, I don't think Hernandez had a great performance tonight. He ends up getting the win over Brendan Allen. Did not look like a almost minus or 3-1 favorite, I should say, going into the fight. But we find out after the fight he was dealing with an illness, had the rib injury. That does explain why Anthony Hernandez looked the way he did tonight, in the sense that I think people expected to be a bit more of a dominant win. Because he didn't look like he did against Michel Pereira. And granted, Pereira and Brendan Allen are different opponents, but I felt like that was part of the reason why Hernandez maybe didn't perform how he wanted, because I bet there's going to be people out here who says that his stock went down. At the end of the day, he gets the win over Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's highly ranked in the weight class. This will get him in that top 10. That will get him a good opponent next. So I would have put Hernandez maybe in the top spot if we're just doing it off optics in terms of where he's in the division. But I didn't think he had that great of a performance, so he's going in the number 2 spot. Okay, number 3. This could be number 1 on some people's list. I'd be cool with that. But Ricky Simon, this guy stole the show. Huge underdog against Javid Basharat. Goes out there, knocks him out. First fighter to knock out Javid Basharat. Again, there was a lot of hype behind Javid Basharat as well. This seemed like a good fight for him to bounce back, of course, coming off that loss to Ayman Zahabi. And Simone stole the show. And I think, again, you look at Simone, he's had a lot of tough luck the last couple fights. This is a good win for him. It puts him back in the mix at bantamweight. I think this was a very good performance and one of the big highlights of UFC Seattle. Of course, all the undercard fighters getting finishes, which was made this one of the more memorable events. A couple honorable mentions I want to get to. Rob Font's got to get an honorable mention. Didn't put him in the top 3 for the simple fact that it was a close fight. In fact, I think some people felt like maybe it should have gone the other way. But Rob Font gave a fight of the night performance. He's now got 2 fights in a row where he's looked great. Again, he was an underdog against Kyler Phillips, underdog here tonight. Rob Font's got to get an honorable mention. He'll get a good opponent after this, after kind of helping the UFC out with his catchweight fight against Matsumoto. Song Yadong's got to get a mention. Again, the fight ended weirdly with the eye poke and all that. I know some fans are upset with that eye poke, but at the end of the day, he does on paper have a win over Henry Cejudo, and that will lead him along in the bantamweight division. So Song Yadong, whether you like it or not, if you didn't like the fight, I still thought even leading into the way the fight ended, I thought the fight was fairly even. And I think Song Yadong showed that he could stand and trade with a guy like Henry, and I know Henry's not really known for that, but he's still a guy that's been in there with some of the best. So Song Yadong, at the end of the day, does get the win over Henry Cejudo. If it was a no contest, maybe he doesn't even get mentioned on this list, but at the end of the day, they're looking at it as a win, so Song Yadong gets an honorable mention. And how about opening up the card, Modestas Bukauskas? He was a favorite going into this fight, but how about getting that first round finish? Really set the tone for the rest of the prelims. Modestas has to get an honorable mention. Okay, let's get to the biggest stock droppers. Now, this one you may disagree with me here, but this actually has to do not necessarily with his performance, but the optics of where he's at. And to me, the biggest stock dropper on this card is Henry Cejudo. Now, Dana White at the press conference, we just finished it up here, not interested in doing a Henry Cejudo Song Yadong rematch, and didn't seem too happy with Henry Cejudo. I won't outright say it, but like he kind of was implying like maybe Cejudo could have toughed it out. I don't know, but he just did not seem very happy with Cejudo after this fight. And here's the reality of the situation. Cejudo's now lost a couple of fights in a row now. He's older. He's someone that, again, if you're not getting the Song Yadong rematch, what fight is there for you at this point? What is the UFC going to do with them? I just think Henry Cejudo's in a tough spot. Like, he didn't really lose this fight, but he also didn't win, and he didn't, unfortunately, with the way things ended, he made the boss upset, whether you like it or not. So Cejudo's in this really tough spot here. I think out of everyone here, you think of all the names on this card, Cejudo was the biggest name. right? You know, all his accolades, everything else. But now he's in this weird spot where it's like he's coming off this no contest where, well, not no contest, loss, I should say. And the boss, you know, doesn't seem too thrilled on his next move. So I think Cejudo's the biggest stock dropper just for that. Okay, our second biggest stock dropper is someone that I think could have won this fight, and he didn't. And I think there was maybe some IQ stuff there. I don't know. To me, it's Brendan Allen. And I think Brendan Allen could have potentially been in this top spot as well, too. Look, Allen wasn't supposed to win this fight. He certainly did not look like whatever it was, almost a 2-1 underdog in this matchup. But it's the fact that there were times when he got Hernandez's back and he couldn't capitalize. And we find out after, obviously, Hernandez dealing with a lot of things. He had the tough weight cut. I mentioned it there in the stock rise. I think Allen should have taken advantage of that. To me, this was a opportunity for Allen to win this fight, get some revenge. Of course, they fought years ago in LFA. I think that Allen, you know, at the end of the day right now, he's got back-to-back losses, right, with Imavov and now Anthony Hernandez. Where does he go from here? Like, is he the gatekeeper of 185 right now, or is he below that? I don't know, but there aren't a ton of, there's not a lot of reason to think that Allen's going to get to the contender spot anytime soon with him losing this fight. And this one could have been the biggest stock dropper. In fact, he could have been ahead of Brendan Allen, honestly, now that I'm looking at it here. But Javid Bashrat, this was a guy that was hyped up as one of the big prospects in the weight class. He's now lost 2 in a row. And it's one thing to lose to Ayman Zahabi. I think the verdict's out on him. He certainly turned a corner getting that win over Marcus McGee in his last fight. But he's now, it's not even that he lost to Ricky Simon. It's that he got knocked out as well, too. So I don't know where Javid Bashrat goes from here. This looked like a fight that was supposed to be like a rebound for him, and it went the opposite way with him getting finished. So, Javid Bashrat, big stock dropper, not a lot to talk about there. Okay, 2 honorable mentions I'm going to mention, and then I got 2 guests that are going to come in here and give their take on everything. Ibo Aslan, again, favored in this fight, got submitted against Ion Cutelaba. I think Cutelaba is a great fighter. I think, the odds maybe didn't reflect what that fight should have been. But this is a guy that, again, they're trying to look for new blood in the weight class, and he didn't pass the test, gets finished in the fight. Definitely threw the kitchen sink at Cutelaba, but it wasn't enough. He ends up getting submitted in that fight. Now, how about Andre Fili? That might have been one of his worst losses. It might be the worst loss he's had. I couldn't believe that he got finished so quickly in this fight. And nothing against Costa. And Costa, to be honest, probably should have got an honorable mention here on the stock risers. But just the fact that Fili, here's a veteran that has been kind of winning one, losing one. But when you get finished like this is the type of thing where the UFC is going to have a short leash and potentially release you. So really tough setback there for Andre Fili. And he does so in his hometown, right? He's from Federal Way, from Washington State. So this was an opportunity for him to really go out there and shine. And I picked him I thought he was going to do enough to get it done. And again, the opposite happened. He gets finished. That's never a good look. So just to do a quick recap here, biggest stock risers here, Gene Silva, Anthony Hernandez, Ricky Simon, Henry Cejudo, Brendan Allen, Javid Bashrat, my biggest stock droppers. I threw in some honorable mentions. But I'm going to put these 2 gentlemen here that are covering this event with me at UFC Seattle on the spot here. Alex Behunin from MMA Mania, going to come join me here. Who are your stock risers? And I should mention, he gave me a recommendation for one, and I didn't want to hear it. So what's your recommendation?
I think Ion Cutelaba is probably one of the biggest stock risers because his win was really nice. He took out an undefeated prospect, but it was his post-fight speech. It was almost like Renato Moicano-esque.
Yeah, good point.
And I was like, I think that possibly got him way over in the fans, and I think people are going to want to see him fight. So I think he rises way up. Okay. I do agree with all of your winners. Gene Silva, I think that dude, sky's the limit for him. I think he's going to get pushed a lot. Fluffy wasn't the greatest win, but it was a win nonetheless. I think it does it holds more weight because of everything he had to go through, and he was hurt in that 3rd round, and it was just bad IQ by Brendan Allen. Ricky Simon, three fight losing streak. Back against the wall, he loses. I bet he would have got cut. So to go out there and flatline Javid, awesome. Farah Song, I agree with all of them. Stock loser.
Wow, we had by the way, I'm just seeing this now. We had the same stock droppers. So Henry, Brendan Allen, Javid, Ibo, and Fili. So there we go. I don't think I'm alone here on that.
Yeah,
so
there you
go. Not much to say. Okay, your work's done here. Drake, get over here. Just joking. We got Drake Riggs from Uncrowned here as well. Who are your 3 stock? See, I'm putting you on the spot. I can tell you're getting nervous. You can't remember them right now.
I know.
Look at this guy. You can't remember.
Yeah, we're chilling. I think you nailed pretty much most of them there, James. But I'm gonna throw out here with the hometown boys. Ricky Simon, I think, is a top one for sure. Bouncing back after 3-fight losing streak, was the underdog. But let's give some love to Mr. Van Zandt. Look at where this guy's career went.
Yeah.
After losing to Gegard Mousasi, everybody called him a can and getting that fight too early, which he probably did. But here he comes in on short notice, and I thought performed pretty well, to get the finish there in the second round. So I will shout out those two. And you guys kind of touched on everything else. I'm coming in here to feed off the scraps.
There you go.
So.
Drake's going back to the set of Boogie Nights with that shirt on. But anyways, these are two buddies of mine, just so people don't think I'm being mean. Really good card though. I got to say this was a. I've covered a lot of events, but a lot of us were saying even this in the media room, these fight night cards sometimes are better than the pay-per-views. A lot of good finishes, a lot of fighters showed up. Like the mix of this card too. Like we had a couple fights put together at the last minute that delivered. Like Drake mentioned the Austin Vanderford fight. This had a bit of everything. Obviously the main event, it was unfortunate what happened with the eye poke. If that doesn't happen, this is probably one of the best fight night cards we've seen in terms of the finishes, the performances, even some surprises in there. Really good card. Dana was very happy at the press conference. Seems like Seattle is going to, it looks like Dana's keeping his eye on the Pacific Northwest in terms of doing events there. So that's my thoughts. That's the Stock Report special extra edition here. Thanks to everyone who watched all my coverage this week for UFC Seattle. I'll be doing some videos probably coming out this week, sort of the aftermath of UFC Seattle. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And so this graphic is going super slow. I don't know why, but anyways, hope you guys all have a good one. I'll talk to you guys soon. And thanks for watching the Stock Report. We'll do it next week for the next UFC Vegas card, which I'm losing track of the numbers. So I'm James Lynch. Take care and have a good one.